Hi, everyone. Well, first off, I hope you're having a really great day. I think today is going to be, of course, talking about the Bisco rebrand to Curion, but I really want to tell you that it's actually more of a conversation about design theory and industrial design. And I hope, as I've dived a little bit deeper into not just here's the goal, here are the goals, here are the results, here's what it looks like, here's the experience. To tell you a little bit more, give you a deeper peek, look underneath the hood a little bit more as to what it really means when our designers create something that you might not even realize impacts you in multiple different ways. So, really, I want to talk to you about the Bisco rebrand to Curion. So anytime you take on, of course, somebody's rebrand or refresh, you want it to be spotless, of course. The transition, anytime you're in such a public-facing environment, has to be seamless for its initial impact. And it's a privilege, and of course, there's a big responsibility alongside that. So my goal in the next couple of minutes is just to show you the details we use to create the experience, and then make up your mind to say, hey, did we do a good job? Do you think we did it? So let's start with the challenge, the goals, and the new logo design. The first challenge was to reflect, of course, the new logo and the exhibit architecture without making it feel forced or out of place. When we talk about translating a logo into a three-dimensional space, we're really talking about capturing its essence, the rhythm, the proportions, the visual attitude, and then allowing that to inform the structure, the materials, and the flow of the space, which if you've read any of our blogs, you know is so important. So to give you an example, the angles in a logo often carry, I'll call them an emotional weight. A sharp forward-leaning angle can suggest momentum or innovation. I sometimes think of engineering logos. If you might not, I'll put one up on the board there. Or a stable horizontal line can communicate trust and balance. I think of Bird Construction, just somebody that's local to me. I might even put in some other logos right there when I do that. But when we mirror these angles in the exhibit architecture, in the framing, the light lines, or the product displays, it subconsciously reinforces the same energy the brand is trying to project. Now, as a visitor, you might not consciously see the connection, but you feel it. You know when you're in a design space, everybody knows. You're like, wow, this feels different. Sometimes designers will even go so far as to curate a musical effect or a music to go along with it, which happens in a lot of stores, or sometimes even a smell. If you go to a spa, there'll be a smell. Because limitations on the show floor, we're not often getting into smells, and sound design obviously is a real challenge when there's so many people kind of running around. But moving on to colors, they obviously play this kind of a similar role. In a two-dimensional system, color defines a visual identity. Red for passion, green for environmental, orange for energy, yellow for comfort and invitation. In spatial design, though, this defines an atmosphere, the same thing, just multiplied. A dominant brand color used in these key architectural elements like a canopy or a flooring accent or lighting washes instantly ties the space back to the brand while also influencing how people feel within it. Of course, it makes sense. Ultimately, the goal isn't to literally paste a logo on a wall, but it's just to let the DNA shape the environment so that when somebody walks into the space, they don't just see the brand, they experience it. And like I had mentioned, if you've been reading our trade show design blogs, you know that a successful booth has to be immediately intuitive. And to make that happen, we need to know design theory and, of course, the goals. For the sake of keeping it simple, though, they wanted to have a stunning multiple natural spaces for demonstrations and to be able to translate the booth by 20 by 30 to a 20 by 20 footprint. So the question is, how did we make this happen? First of all, there's floor spacing. This creates a natural flow for the conversations and experiences you can see from the overhead. I want to point out that we're actually naturally drawn to great design because it is cohesive and unforced. And as you see that overhead, you can see these clear lines of engagement, these spacing. But how do we bring people in while keeping and reinforcing that psychological safety? You can see the logo has these softer angles, and we used those and repeated those angles to create welcoming areas horizontally and vertically. And some of the overhangs, as well as the hanging feature, to create and reinforce this repetition, consistency equals familiarity equals subconscious safety. So you can see this repeated there, as well as actually within the designs of the counters as well. So we stack those to create an intimacy, while the layered angles bring a focus inwards and make the space feel approachable. The taller forms make the brand feel elevated, and also, of course, reinforce that covering. As the kids say, Ken was cooking. The visual fit in the logo iconography isn't in tight lines, but it does show a solution that can overlap and by virtue create a fit together, which you can see. It's there for you to see and experience unconsciously. So the whites in the brand lend to a clinical experience. There's honesty, purity, truth, and the blue creates that kind of a warmth. The directional spotlights highlighting the stations bring that kind of heavenly or authoritative clarity. Like, these are all things subconsciously we think of, light coming from above, while also creating a space for that and setting up that invitation to, of course, have a personal demonstration. Now, here's some additional notes, the small things. Notice how the hanging feature is covered all the way around and not empty. If it was empty, it would felt like it was a cavity, like it was out of place. Notice how the visual tones of blue create a feeling of relaxation, but also the brighter blue lends itself to modernization and authority by way of complementary contrast. Look at the drawers, they're clear. So there's always an invitation that's happening at any time to reflect openness and health. We also did that with large, impactful imagery that was see-through on the two vertical arches. So I guess kind of how I'm going to wrap it up is one of my favorite speeches is Al Pacino's speech in Any Given Sunday. And he's doing a halftime speech to the team saying, "You find out that life is a game of inches. And when we add up all those inches, we find the difference between winning and losing." If you haven't seen it, it's so good. I would check it out. But I think all these inches add up to what is a wonderful experience as we've walked in. The client was happy. We were happy. We got it under budget. I just wanted to show you a little bit more of the amount of thought and time and impact it takes to do something really well, and that it's not just here it is. It takes a lot of thought and energy behind that to be able to make it feel seamless. So there you are. Hope you have a great day. And comment below. Do you think we did it? You think we didn't do it? What'd you think of the explanation? Let me know. Bye for now.